Are there any manuscripts that talk about ancient pagan practices? Well, Dagdi Ivagus Falcha, hi, hello, and welcome. Jon O'Sullivan, Irish Pagan School. And this question is one that comes up time and again in our communities, and when people kind of come and connect and communicate with us around, developing their spiritual practice in Irish paganism. And well, the answer, not hard to say, but hard to find, I suppose, is how I would actually answer that question. Um, the sources for a lot of the information that we have are medieval manuscripts. These medieval manuscripts date from between the 12th and the 14th centuries by carbon dating, but the language that we have in them and the information that it talks about does show that they were also copies of older manuscripts that were maintained. In fact, some of the oldest earliest forms of linguistic Irish can be dated to the 8th to the 9th century. So that's 800 to 900 Common Era. Now, when we're looking for pagan practices, it's a little bit difficult to kind of understand or to kind of tease out the information here, because though we can date the linguistics to that time frame, we know that anything before that time frame was oral tradition in Ireland, in that the information that we have of the culture and the status and the structure of Ireland was that the knowledge and the this yeah knowledge really was passed down in the form of training in skills, apprenticeships if you're kind of working on a skill or a craft, but then also in stories. And this is where we get the there's two kind of categories of tales that we're talking about. There's the Aktra and the Imrama is what they're classified as, and they're usually kind of journey tales or saga tales. But every single one of these stories has an underlying element of teaching to it. They're all teaching tales, and in some cases that's mentioning of warrior feats and kind of great heroic circumstances. In some cases it's teaching about the right way to engage in hospitality and to connect and communicate, the right way to kind of rule a landscape as a chieftain or king, or how not to get fucked by the other crowd, how not to get in shit or in deep with the good neighbors of the other world in Ireland and beyond in their world. So when we're looking at this information, there's no manuscript that kind of lays down this is the specific practice, this is the specific thing that was done in this ritual in this way. But by reading the stories, we know that there are elements of ritual that are buried within there. Mention of stories, for example, like the Tower of Fesh, the bull feast. So when a king was being, selected, an individual would be sometimes a seer or a bard would engage in this ritual known as the Tower of Fesh, where they would consume the blood, the broth, the meat, and of a bull freshly slaughtered. They'd wrap themselves in the skin of the bull, and then they would go to sleep that night. And the person they would dream of would be the rightful next king. Also, as part of that ritual, they were bound to fall dead instantly if they told a falsehood. So, when we talk about practices, when we talk about kind of rituals, engagements, magical elements, that like that, it is mentioned in the stories. There is things that we can point at and we can say from those narratives. But from a practicing pagan point of view, I don't think you're going to go out, slaughter a bull, drink its blood, eat its meat, wrap yourself in its skin in order to kind of have a prophetic vision. Although you might, if it's a special occasion, like trying to get auguries about who the next rightful Taoiseach should be in Ireland or king or whatever. Um, so when we get asked these questions about people looking to honor deities or looking to honor relationships with deities, what we always advise as part of our education is to learn the stories, to learn the lore, to expose yourself to as much of the root lore as possible, and to kind of engaged in a practice of kind of integrating it, like synthesizing with it, processing on it, using the guided journey program that we have at the Irish Pagan School to kind of meditate on it or to journey with it, and then document your responses from that or your experiences, all in order to build up a comfort or a level of connection with God's guides, guardians, whomever it is, ancestors even that you're trying to work your practice towards. And the underlying kind of wording that we use for that in the school is core quivness, which is the right relationship, and the idea that we need to be working from a point of view of right relationship, establishing a connection, building a friendship, getting to know the other people's story, getting to know the stories of the deities, so that we can really understand them if we have experiences communicating with them, as opposed to just imagining, dreaming, or wishful thinking, because it is markedly different when those experiences happen. So yeah, there is no kind of actual guidebook manuscript that comes from the old days, but it is about exploring the stories, learning and building that kind of connection with, as I said, God's guides and guardians, so that you can then inform your own relationships. A personal one that I use for myself, there's a narrative and a story that says about the Dagda. And so the Dagda, in order to restore abundance to Ireland when the Milesians took over, the Milesians had to make friends with the Dagda. And in order to do that, they had to give offerings of first kind of milk or creams, and grain to the Dagda. So my own personal ritual is to offer the first that comes out of any cream that I open. Any kind of cream I open in this house, I offer the first kind of pour of that to the Dagda. And over time, that ritual has shaped and changed. So now the first cream for the Dagda is served to him in a coffee when I have cream in my coffee. And I put it here in this cauldron which sits behind me. So that's how I make it a practical purpose, make it an engaging kind of circumstance for me, and make it a ritual. So when I'm making my coffee, if I'm opening that first cream, he gets his coffee the same way I have my coffee, and we take a moment of communication and consideration. And I consider the story. I remember the stories of abundance and being in right relationship or having that friendship with the Dagda, and how that kind of informs my life and my choices from there. So, hopefully, this has been interesting for you. If you'd like to know more, we have a whole lot of free resources available for you at irishpagan.school/free. If you want to explore your ancestry, there's irishpagan.school/roots. And if you want to kind of take it another step further, you can go to irishpagan.school/3 days, where you can engage in a 3 day kind of program in order to explore some of your connection and to build a bit of a practice around integrating your spirituality with your knowledge or exploring the lore. So, again, thank you very much for being with us here at the Irish Pagan School. Look after yourself, and until next time, Slán. Goodbye.